All right, this is Mike from Seder 42 Vinyl. I'm going to do a video for August 2018, my purchases for that month. And this is going to be pop, kind of rock, and just kind of miscellaneous in a way. I'm going to start from the newest to kind of the oldest. And I'm going to start with one of my favorite pop records of all time. This is in my top 5 all-time favorite records for pop albums, and it's Marinda and the Diamonds, Electra Heart. This album is so good. I just listened to it again before making the video, this week, and every single song on here is a single to me. I mean, she could have released any single one of these, and she actually did videos for, I think, almost every single song on here. And this is a concept record too, so prog metal bands aren't the only bands that can do concept records, and it's, she takes on all these different personalities on the album, these kind of female personalities, like a teenage girl, with struggling with does she want to be popular, things like that, but also, like being the other woman, in a, in a different type of relationship, so just all kinds of different personas that she takes on. And it's just fantastic. The songwriting is amazing. Every single song has a memorable chorus, and it's just fantastic. It's one of my favorite albums in my entire collection. I really, 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 really like this record. And it is probably in my top 5, if not top 10. It would probably be 6 or something like that. But I think if I did a ranking, it would probably be in my top 5 favorite pop records that I own, and probably of all time. Excellent, excellent, excellent album. Yeah, pick this up for sure.
I've turned into a statue, and it makes me feel nice. 'Cause the only time you open up is when we get undressed. You know me, they fucking did. I never tell you how I feel. You know me, not a big deal. I never tell you how I feel. It almost feels like my joke to play out hard when you wanna start and wrong in someone else's heart. You know I'd rather walk alone than pay us one and more. If I can't get start and roll. I wanna be a bottle blonde. I don't know why, but I feel calm. I wanna be an idle teen. I wish I hadn't been so clean. I wanna stay inside all day. I want the world to go away. I want blood guts and chocolate cake. I wanna be a real thing. Yeah, I was shopping at teen Idol. I was shopping at prom queen, fighting for the title. Instead of being 16 and putting up a Bible, feeling super, super, super suicidal. The wasted years, the wasted youth, the pretty lies, the ugly truth. And the days come that I have died only to find I've come alive.
next album is an indie record. This is Mary Lou Lord. And this is an EP that she put out on Kill Rock Stars. I think it's just 8 songs, and it's just really, really good. It's Mary Lou Lord, kind of like singer-songwriter stuff. You know, like the first song is kind of an indie pop song, and Juliana Hatfield sings backup vocals on that song, Lights Are Changing. Just to give you an idea what it sounds like, that's kind of what it sounds like as Juliana Hatfield in a way. I would compare it, you know, they would really go together. Mary Lou definitely has her own little, you know, differences in sound and stuff like that. But they're very similar artists, and this is just a great EP of 8 just excellent songs. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's a really, really good soundtrack too. This is Big Trouble in Little China. This is a Mondo release. I put that on there, but it's the colored vinyl in red, kind of like a splatter with red and yellow, and I think a little bit of black. Great fucking movie. Kurt Russell is fantastic in this movie. I mean, this movie is 5 stars, 10 out of 10, 100%. Rotten Tomatoes. It's great, great, great movie. I love this movie. When I was younger, I had this, you know, I recorded it from off of TV or whatever, you know, off the movie channel or something, and I would watch it over and over and over again. I have this movie memorized. There's so many good lines in it. Kurt Russell is so fantastic in this movie. It's so hilarious. And the soundtrack is a John Carpenter, you know, so it's very synth all the way through. Kind of like has some guitar in it too, so it's kind of like rock synth, you know, in a way, I guess I would describe it. It's just really, really good stuff. But, you know, it has that 80s, definitely an 80s, you know, horror movie kind of, but more upbeat, you know, because it's a comedy, but this very, very memorable melodies and themes on here, and just a great fucking movie. Now, anybody who's a fan of How Did This Get Made, the podcast with Paul Scheer, Jason Mantzoukas, and June Diane Raphael, are going to know why I bought this when I saw it. And it was just $1. It was just sitting in a bin. I was like, it was actually at a flea market in the bins underneath the bins, you know, like how people have just records under there sometimes. I was just going through there, you know, I figured, you know, I'll just go through there as well. I'll just do this once. I'll do a whole, you know, I'll look at everything that's here so I never have to go through it again. If I go back to the place, and I found the Body Rock soundtrack. I just had to buy this just because I knew what it was, you know, from the movie. And you know, listening to How Did This Get Made talk about this movie. Fantastic. I mean, these songs are pretty bad, but they're very typical of movie songs from the 80s, you know, where I always felt like they were like fake bands, but there's real artists on here, you know, and real songs, but they're just throwaway tracks. Except for one track on here. There was one track, might have been Shapeshifter, the Laura Branigan song. I'll probably play that song because that song is really good. It had a really good chorus on it, and I think that song was a little bit of a hit, or it's a song that sounds like it was a hit. But anyway, the movie is ridiculous, and the cover to this is fantastic. And just to find the soundtrack to Body Rock, I mean, good luck, you know. I don't know if you're ever going to find this, but if you are a fan of How Did This Get Made, you would know exactly why I picked this up. And I would pick up pretty much any soundtrack from these 80s movies that they kind of talk about. And yeah, very funny that I found that. This, I kind of got, my wife likes this band, but I also like this album. And this is Men at Work, Business as Usual. Yeah, not much to say about this. This has the hit, what's that song on here? This is actually a pretty good record. I never listened to the B-sides. You know, I only listened to the hits before. Who Can It Be Now is on here, and Down Under. But yeah, this album is very listenable. There's some really good songs on here. As a whole, it's a good record. Yeah, I would recommend this for an 80s, you know, kind of pop rock record or whatever. Good stuff. They're from Australia. Now, this album is one of the best albums of the time, you know, 1978. this is one of the best debut albums ever. You know, it probably would, if I did a top 10 of debut albums, this probably would be in there, and that's The Cars. This, almost every song on here was a hit single or could have been a hit single. I remember when I lived in Detroit and when I was growing up, and we had 2 FM stations, WLZ and WRIF, that played, you know, classic rock, and these songs were just played constantly. Almost every song on here. I think there's only like one song on here that I didn't hear on the radio at least probably 20 or 30 times, you know, growing up. Fantastic record. You pop this on, you're just going to be like, oh my God, hit after you know, you can get the Cars greatest hits, you know, that one single album that they have, or there's a double album as well. But this is a greatest hits album. I mean, it really is. It's one of the best debut, you know, pop rock albums, or I put this under my power pop because it definitely fits into that genre. And, you know, tons of bands in the power pop genre were influenced by this album, especially after, you know, maybe the 80s power, the mid 80s and 90s power pop bands specifically. But I think even 78, 79, 80, you know, bands were just like, whoa. And you know, the Cars were definitely influenced by that too, you know. So, but just, you know, every single song on here, hit after hit after hit. Good Times Roll, My Best Friend's Girl, Just What I Needed. Yeah, and then there's the 2 songs on here, I'm in Touch with Your World and Don't You Stop. Those weren't really big hits. You're All I've Got Tonight, Bye Bye Love, Moving in Stereo, and All Mixed Up. All great songs. Yeah, fantastic record. Now this album, these next 2 albums really go together because they are artists that are just bizarre in a way. One of them has had, like, I would say a normal pop hit or a couple of them, but still incredibly bizarre. And like my wife, when I play this stuff, she's like, what the fuck are you listening to? I don't even understand this. And that's Kate Bush. And this is Lionheart. I just listened to this again. It's a great record. I mean, something about Kate Bush, when I put the album on, I have to listen to the whole album all the way through, and it just puts me in a weird headspace because her vocals are so interesting. The melodies that she comes up with are just really bizarre, but they're there, you know, like they're memorable. And it's just very strange, progressive pop music, I guess I would say. That's kind of what I would call it, you know. I mean, I don't know however else to describe it. And her voice being so high most of the time that could be a turnoff for some people, I'm sure. I think it's fascinating. I think her voice is amazing. And just, you know, she does performance art as well, you know. So like when she used to play live back in, you know, when these albums were coming out, her shows were very interesting, you know. Like she would put on costumes and, you know, do all these, like, you know, weird dancing and stuff like that. It was not just your typical, you know, pop show, you know, of the time. Very bizarre stuff, but really, really melodic. And I say, you know, she only had really like one big hit, and I guess that was Running Up the Hill, you know, and that was probably one of her most straightforward pop songs that she had ever written. And that song is pure genius anyway, you know. This album definitely doesn't have like any hits like that on there. It's definitely more, I guess, bizarre is the only thing I can say, but yeah, if you want to try something new or interesting or different, and you can tolerate her voice and these crazy weird melodies, Kate Bush is where it's at. She's a one of a kind artist, really. Bjork would be another one that I guess you could compare her to. I think Bjork, Tori Amos, all those artists were very inspired by Kate Bush. And yeah, good stuff here. I like pretty much everything that Kate Bush put out. And here's another artist that is incredibly bizarre for his time. This album came out in 1974, and that's Frank Zappa. This is Apostrophe. Just a weird progressive rock album, very jazzy, influenced. It's definitely not jazz. It does have horns and stuff in it, but it's mostly guitar, rock, but there's a lot of spoken word stuff on here to music. He tells these weird stories, just bizarre stuff. Yeah, don't eat the yellow snow. So bizarre. Very interesting listen though. I mean, very listenable too, like you just listen to it, it just puts you in a different space. It's not like listening to normal music, verse, chorus, verse music where, you're, oh, cool, that's a good song, sing along to it. Yeah, you're not, I don't know that, you'd have to listen to this album quite a bit to be able to start singing along to it because it's just so bizarre again, but it's good. I enjoy listening to it because it's definitely, I don't know, unique. And it's not unique bad, it's unique good. And there is a difference, like there's bands like Gentle Giant and stuff like that where I can't tolerate as much of the wankery, I guess I would say on that, where it's just, but Zappa's kind of entertaining because he's trying to be funny in some way and he succeeds in a lot of cases. And yeah, it's just really interesting. And it just has this flow and this sound to it that just makes it sound really good. Like it sounds like it's modernly recorded, it doesn't sound like, like it was recorded in the early 70s, it sounds very clean, like, really good instrumentation. And yeah, it just sounds great. But yeah, I only have a couple of Frank Zappa albums. I don't have very many. I have Apostrophe and I have one other one that are, I guess, is more traditional, more, I guess the other ones are even more bizarre. I don't know. Anyway, interesting record.
Wow, are we moving too slow? Have you seen us on Burrito? We look pretty sharp in these clothes. Yes, we do. Unless we get sprayed with A-Rose. It ain't bad in the day.
that's all I have for pop, rock, and other. All right, thanks.